Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast. I am Race for the Prize. Let's look at the optimal lineups for COTA in the Xfinity Series. We'll look at 2023, 2022. We'll also look at the Roval from 2023 because it is the one race last season that featured stages. Stages are back in our life, so it would behoove us to look at that. And really, the reason we do this is to get an idea for lineup construction. You should do it every week. It changes depending on the track, especially at a road course. The build is always going to be different. Too long didn't read. You're going to need one hog. One guy that leads laps runs fast laps. The best way to target that driver is just get as many guys in your lineup that you think are going to get a top five, and the rest will sort itself out. You're more than likely going to nail the guy that leads the most laps. From there, you're going to need to chase place differential and finishing position. So typically a top 10 with place differential from your more expensive drivers. They may not be the best road course racers, but they are going to be in decent equipment. They're going to play the stage cycling correct. They're going to hold position, and they're going to come through. And maybe they'll give you a little bit of value, like Brandon Jones at 7,700, Chandler Smith at 8,600. But again, you really are targeting top finishes. Here, we didn't need all the top 10s. You got an 11th out of Brandon Jones, but him starting 26 was good enough. Smith, 27th, good enough. And then you're probably going to end up with two value drivers. They could be misprices. They could be guys just starting in the back that have decent days and cycle forward. We'll explain this optimal lineup in a second. Again, your general build, one hog. Just one guy that leads laps. If you get more, great. But then you're trying to get top 10s out of your other expensive drivers like Byron, Jones, and Smith. And then the best that you can get out of your value. That seems to be the typical build in an Xfinity race. When we look at this, again, it's worth repeating. Not a lot of laps at COTA or any of the road courses. So if we're looking at the scoring pie, last week at Bristol, there were a lot of laps. So fast laps and laps led made up a large portion of the pie. So when you went to the dinner table and you wanted to eat, the first thing that you wanted was fast laps and laps led. And that's what you were targeting. That's what your eye was on. Now it shifts because this number is much lower. That makes the finishing position much more a significant part of the pie. I mean, you look at AJ Allmendinger. He led the race with fast laps and laps led, 14 total, but the majority of his points, or the majority, comes from finishing position. So we want to target finish. Now, our next step is place differential, if we can get it. So place differential is where you go next with your picks, and you get 7 from Byron, you get 15 from Jones and Smith, and I would make a note that don't get too greedy. We're first focusing on getting finishing position. You don't really have to get a big whooping splattering of whipped cream. 7 place differential is more than enough. You get 15, great, but you don't have to be that aggressive. Don't get greedy. And you can get as greedy as you want with these value guys. That's going to be up to you. It's just going to be depending on the situation, circumstance, and the driver. So here it is. 4 top tier guys, 1 hog. Then our value. The place differential ranges from 7 to 17. It's not a huge number. It could be bigger depending on the circumstance, but I think the floor of place differential is significant. And how much do you need? Probably 3 or 4 is not enough. But 5, 6, 7, probably going to get it done. And again, like in the truck series, let's see, 5 of the top 15 drivers. I mean, even Jeremy Clements finishes in the top 15. So I need top 10s, and I probably need top 15s from my value. We'll go back and double check that as we look at other optimal lineups. But I think that's a fair target in the Xfinity Series, is asking for something around 15th-ish from your value drivers. Absolutely want top 10s, although these guys are in 11th and 12th. Still pretty close. I mean, I don't think it's very... I mean, we could break down Chandler Jones's laps. We could break down Brandon Jones's laps, but you know what it's going to be. Just stage cycling, holding position, things going their way, a little bit of attrition, a little bit better of a restart. It's not crazy to see Brandon Jones take what should be a 15th to 10th place car and finish 10th place. Especially when it's a race where everyone's going to be on the lead lap and you're just kind of holding position. He's got tons of road course experience because he's been in this series forever, and the Xfinity Series has been running road courses forever. And he also runs a lot of different Trans Am races. Colleague, pretty good road course program. although Chandler Smith may not have had the most experience, still put together pretty good results in his runs at 8,600. Starting 27th, you're not splitting the atom. You get a top tier team in the back, you're going to play them. It's really nothing crazy. Clements actually has that Road America win. He's not a bad road course driver. Starting 25th, runs around 20th, which really, when we look at the mid-pack, Clements is not really the most dominant guy. He is there, but I would elevate his status at road courses. He's had success. So for him to run around 19th, benefit from either stage cycling or attrition at the end, just not making mistakes, getting a little bit more boost. And really, that's not that bad of a play either. Pushing it a little, but again, with value sometimes being very rare, 6,200 starting 25th, even if he doesn't completely maximize with the top 15, a couple spots lower, and he is fine. He is able to beat out Anthony Alfredo, who really fits the same mold, although I would say Clements might be a little bit better of a road course racer in terms of experience. Alfredo didn't probably have the best equipment with BJ, but it seemed to be a little bit better BJ equipment than in previous seasons. Alfredo in a BJ car at an intermediate track is a different story than at a road course where we're all going to be on the same lap. You just got to maintain your stuff and be smart. And Alfredo, for the most part, is a pretty methodical racer, cerebral racer, if we want to go that far. And maybe this type of racing is going to suit him, and he's going to be able to make the right moves to move forward. So there's two values that really came through right there. But then you're going to really have a lack of value. The top guys are going to finish towards the top. Maybe Ryan Ellis was a place that you would have went. Didn't really have a bad day. Just not as good as Alfredo and Clements. Really no fault in playing him. Decent equipment. Enough experience. Weatherman just doesn't get you at the end. I would like to see if he maybe had some issues. He doesn't get that last end of the race boost. He's always been pretty decent equipment. And then from there, I don't think you need to explore anymore. You've got the general idea of the build. That was also a race without stages, so that's an issue. We'll look at 2022 COTA now and see if our structure and general build holds up. As far as identifying like the best road course racers in the Xfinity series, there's really not a lot of difference. You're going to know the studs, and then the guys in the top tier are all pretty much capable of getting a top 10 finish, especially when you throw in cycling and all the things that can happen. The degree of difference in talent, as I've mentioned before, sometimes is overrated, especially at a road course where in the end, the circumstance of how these road courses play out really kind of neutralizes everything, equalizes everything. And Brandon Jones is right there with guys that you probably would never really account him for being. 2022 COTA, we do have stages. You do have the hog in AJ Allmendinger. 10,500, starts fourth, wins the race. Plenty of place or fast laps and laps led, but again, as we noticed, the finishing position points is really what makes it the major point. And we look at our top 6 in DFS, and they all finish 6th or better, with the exception of being Ryan Sieg, who is your value play, who still even brings it home in 11th for this race. That's pretty nice. I don't know if we're going to need to be that extreme, but it is definitely going to be on the board. Definitely is going to benefit from some circumstances at the end through attrition. Stage flipping is kind of how Sieg gets there. And again, he's at the top of the backpack, so he should be a 20th place driver. He was a 22nd place driver. He's going to do some stage cycling. If he can just hold a little bit and then avoid chaos through attrition, he's going to get there. That type. Now, it doesn't have to be Ryan Sieg, but that archetype of a pick, that value pick. But again, 6,200 for Sieg is a misprice in my book. And then you get him starting 35th. He didn't need to finish 11th. He could have finished exactly where he ran, and he would have been in the optimal lineup. Myatt Snyder brings it home. Snyder was running for Jordan Anderson. Jordan Anderson has put together some pretty good road course Xfinity rides during their tenure in this series. So keep your eye on the Jordan Anderson vehicles. Running at the top of the back or the mid pack, and then is going to benefit at the end. He had pretty much a 15th place car for most of the race. You'll see average running position of 19th. Not bad for a Jordan Anderson vehicle. Then he gets a big boost at the end by hammering a restart, grabs a lot of positions, and he also throw in some attrition by other drivers just not finishing the race. and he turns what was probably a 15th place day into a 6th place day. If he finishes 15th, he's still fine. Well, maybe not. It's close. Probably close. But again, we do have to factor in and expect there to be attrition points to be gained. So when you say, oh, this guy's about a 15th place driver, under normal circumstances, he can run in 15th. Then you need to bake in some attrition points because other guys just fall down the grid, maybe some issues at the end, and maybe the possibility that barreling into turn one, he just is the one guy that has a good turn one and grabs more spots. So you can really do that with almost any of your drivers in the mid pack. I don't know if I really want to flirt with the absolute slugs that could be in the field, but I want to maximize finishing position and place differential from the mid pack. So everyone's going to get that boost. The real key is like, all right, when they get that boost, where were they? And like I said, Snyder was right there in the mid-teens for most of it. So he was there and got that boost and really went for it. So I guess mid-pack, you would say, where can this guy run? First step. If he's going to run in 25th, Snyder's going to run in 20th, then I'm going to take the guy who's going to run in 20th and get the boost. Now, what if Snyder doesn't get the boost and the guy in 25th gets the boost? And that can happen. Just something you got to be focused on. Austin Hill, top-tier team. 6th place differential. If we look, we get a 24 from Sieg. Awesome. He's starting in the back. We get a 15 from Snyder. Awesome. That's a bit of an outlier, I would argue. Just that really good restart at the end. But then for the rest, we are not greedy in chasing our place differential so much. We want some whipped cream on our pie, but we don't want it to be all whipped cream. We want to taste some of the pie, the slice, which is mainly finishing position. But 6, 8, and 5 place differential points is enough to bring it home for the optimal lineup. And you could argue that maybe these guys were a little underpriced, but this was 2022 Sam Mayer. This was 2022 Austin Hill. So prices were probably just about right on these guys, that we didn't necessarily have to pay a bunch of money for finishing position. Mayer's been a really good road course driver. We have Brandon Jones starting 38th. There was nothing wrong with that pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if the actual winning lineup had Brandon Jones in it. If I get a top-tier ride starting in the very back, then yes, I'll take the whipped cream. That's a freebie. We had Cole Custer actually in that daughter SHR car, has a decent race, part-time in 2022. Buford for Big Machine. Brett Moffitt for Hour, having decent days, doing what they typically do, get solid finishes. If you look at the top 10 in fantasy points, it's top 10 in finishing position. We got to get top 10s. We need solid races from these drivers. They need to run in a decent position, they need to survive, and they need to get the boost at the end. But again, this one we don't really have 2 punts, but that's because we're arguing that Snyder and Hill, Mayoral, maybe a little cheaper than they needed to be. And we didn't have a lot of expensive drivers in the 2022 COTA. Or did we? We did, and they had issues. Chastain, Gibbs, so these guys getting knocked out. Daniel Hemrick, although you probably weren't going to go there. Justin Allgaier. So 2 things happen here with that is, like I mentioned with the attrition bump, those drivers all should have finished ahead of a lot of the guys that were in the top lineup. So you get that boost, but that's not unusual. It's not uncommon. There are going to be maybe a handful of drivers that are capable of a top 10 or at least a top 15 that it's just not going to work out for them. Especially when we give the volatility of, there's cutting the course, there's turn one chaos, it's just a road course in general, there's mechanical failures. You get guys that realize they can't pass, so they finally go for a pass and they spin out. So it happens, especially if they spin out late in the race. Those are positions that they're going to concede and boost up some of the cheaper drivers. This one's a little bit more of an outlier because the top tier all goes down. These guys might have been slightly underpriced that you didn't need. And if we see going into COTA this week, the prices are pretty soft for some of the guys that are capable of top 10s, then it's a possibility that you decide I don't need 2 value drivers or 2 punts. I may only need 1. It's going to be circumstantial, as always. Let's now look at the 2023 Roval race because it has stage cycling. And we're going to see that this week. There's tons of stuff in the Fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet at raceforprize.com. You want to look at all these races, have at it. All these laps, have at it. We get one hog in the lineup. Pretty good day for Sam Mayer. Road course stud. You got John Hunter Nemechek, another stud team, starting 38th. No brainer. You can't get Cole Custer into your lineup, who finishes second. But then you got Kaz Gralla, middle price. I think he was running for Hunt. Not a bad road course racer. Had that solid Daytona road course race in the Cup Series several years ago, filling in at RCR while Austin Dillon had COVID. 48 fantasy points. He gets you 9 place differential. Gets you a top 5 finish. Average running position was 10th. So again, they're going to get a little bit of an attrition boost, maybe a restart boost at the end. Could you see him running in 10th? Maybe that's a little bit of a push. Not that crazy. Started 14th. I don't think I probably would have gone here in retrospect. I probably didn't. But it makes sense in the end that he gets there. And he's got top 5 finish. If you get top 5 car, then more than likely to have some place differential too. Boom. Mike Snyder. This race, he may have been with JGR. I'd have to look, or Jordan Anderson. Don't remember off the top of my head. My apologies. Average running position 19th. You can always play the narrative. Oh, well, he ran in the Euro Series back in 2019, and he has road course experience. 19th place finish for average running position for him. Not a stretch. Giving a little bit of boost at the end to 14th. Middle price, buddy, starting in the back. So you did go for some whipped cream there. But a 31st start for Mike Snyder and decent equipment. You know he's going to rise to the top of the midfield. You know he's going to probably be around 20th. And that's probably good enough right there. He should get to around 20th. Throw in the added boost, boom. The same Mike Snyder play as before. Riley Herbst, a little more trickier of a play, but again, just get that top 5. His price wasn't that high. Top 5, there's not a lot of points to be scored. He does get you that minimum amount of whipped cream, the 5 place differential. So he would have been on your board saying, well, can he get there? Yeah, it's not a super stretch. He was probably on the fringe of your picks, but it worked. Our value, only one again, really, and that is Brendan Poole at 5,000, starting in the back. It's push, it's a stretch, running 25th, big boost at the end. Do I have notes on Poole getting this bigger than normal result? 28th, he's running around 28th, 26th. He stays out at the end, holds some spots, and through a little attrition is able to get that big boost. So this is simply just him playing his cards right, stage cycling. Anyone can do this. Anyone can pull this off. I know you don't want to hear it. You want things like Parker Retzlaff to happen, who was a very solid driver in a Jordan Anderson truck at the 2023 COTA race. You want to be able to say, all right, this guy is good, and he can drive through the field. Like when Retzlaff got into the optimal lineup last year, we all know Retzlaff was good. It's great for Jordan Anderson last year. Very solid equipment. Solid Cup, Xfinity cars. Poole, not so much for JD. But, and I know you don't want to hear it, if you can run around 25th, which Poole is more than capable of doing in a JD car, and you stage cycle, which we're going to have stages, you stay out under a caution, and you're able to hold position and keep some of those mid-pack drivers back and hold your own, just not give them an opportunity to pass, you end up finishing 17th. There's a lot of guys that can do that. It's not necessarily going to be the value play that, oh, this guy has speed or he has experience or he has talent. That is part of it. But there's also the possibility that one of these value guys surprises us simply because they play their cards right. I mean, you see here, Stephen Parsons, very similar result, just not as good as Poole. Josh Williams, very similar starting position, very similar running position, plays his cards right as well. There's going to be a couple of them, and hopefully you pick the right one that not necessarily is the best, but just that the chips fall in their favor. I hate to say that, but that tends to be the case when we're hunting for value in these series. Everybody's going to be on the lead lap. Everyone's going to be right there. It's not necessarily going to be who was the best. It's going to be a lot more of a strategy play for your value. As far as the top guys, for the most part, it's going to be who we expect. And it's going to be the guys that avoid making mistakes, drivers that Don't get off the course. Don't have mechanical failures. Don't do anything stupid. Hard to predict who that will be, but in the end, we're often not surprised to see the top 5 be the top 5. So again, as we close out this podcast and discuss optimal lineups, the takeaway, you want the hog, check. But don't worry about, I can't predict who's going to lead the most laps. Yeah, you probably will. Starting position is probably going to be a good thing to start with. Practice is going to be a good thing to start with. Their history is going to be a good thing to start with. But really, in the end, you're just trying to nail top 5 drivers. If you do, you're more than likely going to take the guy that leads the most laps and runs the most fast laps. That'll sort itself out, as I say. You really just want to maximize finishing position with your studs. Get enough place differential. Don't have to be greedy with your studs. And then hope that you select a value guy that can run around 25th or 20th and then can boost up a little bit more. Sound like a plan? Sure, it does. Please like, subscribe, share the video. RaceForThePrize.com is where you can get access to the Fantasy NASCAR Spreadsheet. $10 for this weekend. Tons of different sheets available. Tons of data in the road course sheet. We can do a prorated situation for March. If not, maybe I'll look forward to you in April. Blessed to have you guys around. Love you guys. Trip to life's fantastic.